Hi all, welcome back. In this video, we will discuss about the most frequently asking question in interview. For Java profiles, um, PostConstruct and PreDestory annotations. Let's look at about these annotations. These annotations are basically lifecycle annotations. That means these are related with the bean initialization and bean destroy stages. So these are basically we can consider life cycle annotations, and these methods, as I said, we can execute when a bean is created or destroyed. These annotations we can use for the methods which we want to execute either bean is at the time of bean is created or at the time of bean is getting destroyed. So these annotations are belongs to Java X.annotation package, and let's look at each annotation. Okay, so first look at the post construct annotation. This annotation will execute a method once the bean is getting created and its dependencies are injected. That means, suppose let's say you want to execute certain method or certain functionality once the bean is created. So you can keep that code inside one particular method and annotate with the annotation post construct. So what will happen once that bean is getting created? Immediately the method which is annotated with post construct annotation will execute. In simple words, we can say whatever functionality or code you want to execute once after bean is created, keep that complete code in one particular method and annotate with the annotation post construct. So it will execute as we discussed after initialization. Once the bean is getting created, this method will execute whatever method we have it with the annotation post construct. And we can see use cases. Basically, let's say we want to we use this annotation to execute a method once the bean is getting created, right? So in that statement itself, we can uh, uh, consider that it will help you to load the configurations whichever is applicable. Whichever is needed, not applicable, sorry, whichever is needed once the bean is getting created. Or if you want to perform any background task once the bean is getting created, or you can, if you want to execute any dependencies validations whichever is injected, and suppose you want to initialize any resource once bean is getting created. In that case, you can use this annotation by keeping all the code required, right? Whatever code we want to execute after bean creation, right? That we can keep it in one method and we can annotate with post construct. So that method will execute once the bean is getting created. This is just a small example for that. We can define a method and whatever functionality or logic we want to execute after the bean is created, that we can keep it inside the method and we can annotate with the post construct annotation. So once the bean is created, this method will execute only once after the bean is getting created. Let's take a look at PreDestory annotation. Okay, this annotation little reverse to the previous one. It will execute method once the bean is removed. That means, suppose you want to perform any functionality or any logic or code. Suppose you want to execute uh, after the bean is removed, that code you can put it inside one method and annotate with the PreDestory method. So once the bean is removed from the container, then that method will execute. It will execute only once after the application is getting shut down. So basically use cases, right? While closing the, shutdown the application. So basically you want to free up the resources. Let's say whatever databases connections we have, right? We want to close that, or whatever resources we are connecting and using, right? Suppose you want to release that resources, that we can that kind of code releasing the resources, we can put it in a method and annotate with the PreDestory. So once the application is getting shut down, this method will execute immediately. Let's look at the example, just a small example. So whatever code I want to execute after the application is shut down or bean is getting destroyed, that I can keep it in certain method, all code together in certain method, and I can annotate that method with the PreDestory annotation. So it will execute once the application is shut down. And before that, using those two annotations, right, we must know life cycle flow in Spring Framework. So first is bean is getting created. Once the bean is created, right? So whatever dependencies are required for that bean will be injected. Then immediately it will execute the methods whichever have the post construct, and uh, bean will be ready for use. Now it will be ready for you for our purpose to use. Once the bean is uh, uh, used for its purpose and completed, basically we want to close the application. I mean, we will shut down the application before being getting destroyed. Application will shut down. Then immediately pre-destroy methods will execute. Then bean will be destroyed. This is a simple life cycle flow in Spring Framework. And when using these two annotations, right, any one of these two annotations, we must remember certain points. Okay, so we should have the methods, right, to annotate with this post construct and pre-destroy. Those methods should not contain any parameters. Okay, those methods have no parameters, and those methods should not return anything. Those methods should have the return type as void. And uh, these annotations will work only for the Spring managed bins, Spring framework bins. Okay, whatever is created and maintained in the container, Spring container. This much information is more than enough to give in interview for this post construct and pre-test annotations question in interviews. Okay, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and support. Thank you.